Hello my loves, it's Monica, and today I'm so excited because I finally get to film a video that is always just one of my favorite videos to research and plan and film every year, and that is my most anticipated reads video. So how these videos work, if you are not familiar, is that I'm basically going to be sharing with you all some books that I have been saving over the past few months that I am just so excited to read that are coming out in 2022. Now, over the past couple of years, I started splitting it up so that I do like 2 or 3 videos every year talking about upcoming releases, just because books are often not given publish dates that far in advance. Like, I'm probably, unless it's a really big book, there aren't really many publish dates for like past August. Also, especially this year, and I do want to put this out there, a lot of these dates that I'm going to be sharing with you guys might shift a bit, as I know that there is some logistical issues happening right now within book printing. Things are definitely always up for being moved around as the publishing gods see fit. But yeah, I'm really excited. I have just so many books that I just so badly wish I could get my hands on like right now, because they just sound so good. There's so many like just amazing upcoming releases for 2022, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dive on in. But before I do, I would love to hear from you all in the comments down below. What are some books that you're looking forward to picking up in 2022, whether that be new releases, sequels, or just books that you've had on your shelf for ages that you really want to get to next year? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to find me over on Instagram, TikTok, all of that. And without further ado, I'm gonna dive on in with my most anticipated releases. So I have all of these in my notes on my computer, so if I'm ever looking down, that is what I'm looking at. But I have these sorted by publication date, so we're gonna kick things off with January. And coming out January 4th is Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho. And this one is a literary fiction novel in which we follow 2 women who have been best friends. We follow their friendship like spanning decades. They're 2 Taiwanese American women. The novel itself is told in alternating perspectives, and we follow these women over years, and they find themselves, you know, coming back to each other as sort of like both as like a beacon of home, and also like as a reminder of all the things that they've lost and the traumas that they've experienced. And I'm particularly excited about this one because it just sounds like an incredible story about female friendship, which is amazing and so important, but also Asian American women friendship, which is something that I really haven't read a ton about. Like, one of my favorite novels that I read over the past few years was oh, why am I blanking on the name? If I Had Your Face. If I Had Your Face was absolutely brilliant. It followed a group of women living in Seoul, and I loved reading about their friendship. I feel like this book kind of reminds me of that in some ways, but obviously it's set in America, so also very different. But I just tend to really love stories that center female friendships. Like, that's something that always just makes me really excited to read a story, is knowing that there's going to be like a really important friendship between 2 women. And so that's the main reason why I'm really excited for this one. I'm just, yeah, excited to read about 2 Taiwanese American women and their lives and how their lives intersect over many years. I just think that sounds brilliant. So that is book number 1. Maybe not the flashiest of the bunch, but one that I'm very excited for. Then on January 25th, The Red Palace by June He comes out, and oh my goodness, y'all, I am a June He stan. Every single book that she comes out with is a banger. Like, I'm so excited for this one. It's gonna be so good. So basically all the books that she's written, the 2 that she's written or that have been published, are historical YA mystery novels set during the Joseon era of Korea, and every single one, oh my gosh, I love the way that she like reveals things. I love the way that she does her characters. I love the like girls that she introduces us to through her stories, and the way that she just writes. The setting is also just like so fun to read, and this one in particular I'm so excited for because she's like shared, you know, like bits of like her inspiration, which seems to very much so be like obviously from that era and historical what we know historically of the era, but also from historical Korean dramas, which I love. And I especially love palace Korean dramas, or like court Korean dramas. They're just good. They're just on another level, and that is what this one really gives me the vibe of. In this one, it's set in 1758 in Korea, and we follow Hyun. She is an illegitimate daughter living in the capital at the time, and she sort of worked her whole life to be as successful as she possibly can be, to keep her head down and just basically try and work her hardest in order to attempt to get her father's attention. But then she gets thrust into the world of court drama and politics when 4 women are mysteriously murdered in one night, and the prime suspect is her friend and mentor. And so from there, she kind of takes up the investigation herself. And that's really sort of like a theme throughout all of Junher's stories, are these like women taking on these mysteries for themselves. And I love her stories. Every time I just fall into them and love them. So I'm so excited for this one to come out and to fall into it too. It's going to be such a good time. Cannot wait. Then on February 15th, Where I Can't Follow by Ashley Blooms comes out, and this book just sounds stunning. It kind of sounds like it kind of travels the line between both fantasy and literary fiction. Basically, this book is set in a little mountain town that's been hit really hard by the opioid epidemic in America. And in this town, these doors have been popping up for individuals, and a person can choose to step through the door, but they aren't able to know what life they're stepping into, and they also can never return to the life that they had. And I love a good portal fantasy, or just like the usage of that trope in fiction. I feel like it's become more and more popular recently. I say this because I've read one other book that does this, but like that, to use portal fantasy elements within, like, to tell a literary fiction story. The other one that I've read is Exit West, which I also really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm very intrigued for this one. Our main character is Marin, and she sells pills, and it was something that she never really planned on doing for a long time. But you know, just the bills kept stacking up, and it seems like every time she'd get ahead, something else would hit. And then one day a door appears for her, just like it once did for her mom, who Marin hasn't seen since she was 9. There was a Goodreads review that really stuck out to me, and I wish I had like screenshotted it, but I have a quote from it. And they wrote, "This book will carve out a place in your heart if you let it. Marin and Granny, Julie and Carver, they are all waiting for you in a little holler with little doors and big feelings about all the ways in which they are both trapped and free." And that just sounds amazing. I'm so excited for this one. I just feel like it sounds fantastic. And honestly, like, the description and the reviews had me already getting like choked up and feeling a lot of feelings. So I'm very excited. Then on February 22nd, a book that has just one of the most beautiful covers of the entire year, both in the US and UK editions. Like, honestly, I can't decide which version I want because they are both so ridiculously beautiful, and that is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. This is a YA fantasy that has been compared to Spirited Away, and it's supposed to sort of mix some, like, I think, ideas from Spirited Away with Korean mythology. And do I need to know anything else to be excited for this book? Not really, but I am going to tell you a little bit more about it. Basically, we follow Mina, whose home has been ravaged for generations by these horrific storms that just wipe out entire villages and kill a lot of people. And the people where she's from believe that the sea god has cursed them, and so every year they send forth a new girl as a sacrifice to be his wife, in the hopes that eventually he'll find his true wife and the storms will cease. So Mina actually isn't the sacrifice, but she ends up sacrificing herself to save another girl, and she falls into the ocean where she, finds herself amongst the sea god. But it turns out dude's actually asleep. I don't actually think it's not funny in the story itself, but I mean, that's a twist. So yeah, he turns out to be asleep, and she has to figure out how to wake him up, and it sounds really fun. It sounds very like quest-like almost. She ends up working with like a group of like demons, gods, and spirits to like try and figure out how to wake up this sleeping the sea god, to try and figure out how to wake him up. But then also there are other gods who don't want him to be awake, and it's kind of this race against time, because also if she doesn't wake him up in time, she's going to die because she can't survive survive under, like, within that spirit realm. And yeah, I just think this one sounds really unique, and you know, I've rarely read anything that takes place under the sea, and I love the idea. I'm trying not to go into it actually expecting like Spirited Away, because I think that that is kind of a recipe for disaster. You know, it's very easy to expect the moon when that's not what the book is trying to give, if that makes sense. And again, the covers absolutely stunning. I'm sharing the American cover here. I definitely recommend checking out the UK one. It is chef's kiss beautiful. This next one, there's a couple on here that I debated whether or not to include because they're such like big books that I don't feel like they need my coverage or my like hype, but I am so excited for them. So, and this is probably the biggest out of them, and it's Gallant by V.E. Schwab. It is her newest YA novel. It's a standalone fantasy. It's supposed to be like The Secret Garden meets Crimson Peak, which like sounds amazing. Sign me up. Super gothic. Love that. Love a like super atmospheric, spooky house. Basically, we follow this girl who her whole life has grown up at this, you know, boarding school for girls and has never really been home. And all she has of home is this journal of her mom's that slowly throughout the entries kind of devolves into madness. And then she ends up getting a letter calling her back to her home, Gallant. And she goes back, but it turns out nobody there actually called her back home, but she decides to stay because, you know, this is her first time being home and she just kind of wants to experience what that's like. But she also is seeing some potential ghosts around the halls of Gallant, and what's up with that? This one sounds super intriguing, spooky, eerie, fun. These are all things I am loving in fiction right now. So yes, bring it on. Super excited to read Victoria Schwab's take on that because yeah, she's just phenomenal. She does not disappoint, and I'm excited. I think it sounds really good. Also on March 1st, which is wild, like this is a big day because both of these books are coming out, is Saba Tahir's new book, which is All My Rage. And this one is actually a YA contemporary mixed with historical fiction, and it sounds phenomenal. We follow Sal and Noor, who are best friends living in Juniper, California, and both of them are struggling in their own ways. Sal is trying basically to keep his family's motel afloat and save it from being closed, but his mom is, you know, slowly losing her health, and his father is also losing his battle to alcohol addiction. And then Noor works at her wrathful uncle's liquor store while secretly also applying to colleges because she wants to escape her uncle and the town. And the two of them, Sal and Noor, they've been friends for years and years, and they have a big falling out. And so the story kind of explores, you know, the aftermath of that. And according to the Goodreads synopsis, it's meant to be a breathtaking novel of young love, old regrets, and forgiveness, one that's both tragic and poignant in its tender ferocity. So yeah, I just think it sounds brilliant. I love everything I've read by Saba Tahir. I have not finished the Ember series because I need to reread the Ember series, and I have just not gotten to that point where I'm ready to reread it yet, but one day I will. But as far as I got, I really enjoyed it, and I am also really intrigued just to read a contemporary or like not like fantasy story from her, and yeah, I'm really excited for that. I think that'll be wonderful. So definitely a big day, March 1st. Then on April 26th, one of my most anticipated fantasy novels of the year comes out, and that is Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is a fantasy retelling of Kaikeyi's story from a well-known Hindu epic called Ramayana, and it just sounds phenomenal. Basically, our main character is Kaikeyi. She is the only daughter of her royal parents from the kingdom of Kaikeyi, and she has grown up her whole life being told these amazing stories about the gods and their benevolence and just acts of miracles. But then those stories don't really align with what she's seeing in her real life, where she watches her father unceremoniously banish her own mother and then sees her own worth being, you know, valued as to what kind of marriage she can get. And from there, she ends up going back to those stories to discover her own magic. And this one just sounds like, if you read the synopsis, like the full synopsis, oh my gosh, it just sounds so epic. Just based on the way the synopsis is written and like a couple of quotes that I've read from the book, I just feel like I'm really going to love this one, and all of the themes that it explores. And also it's just, I've never read a retelling of this particular story, so I'm also really excited for that. So yeah, this is definitely one that I am most anticipating for this year, and I'm hoping that I love it as much as I am hoping I do. So on May 3rd, a very exciting novel is coming out, and that is Holly Black's first foray into adult fantasy, and that is Book of Night. And oh my gosh, I am so excited for this. Yes, so excited. Here's the thing, I don't love every Holly Black book I read, but I appreciate every Holly Black book I read. If that makes sense? I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel like she writes such interesting characters and worlds, and I love just what she creates. Even if it's a book that I don't love, you know, like for example, I really did not like the final book in the Cruel Prince series. Even if I don't like something, like I still find myself appreciating like the overall world that she creates and stuff like that. And when I do love a book by her, oh my gosh, do I love it with my whole heart. So I'm really hoping that's what this turns out to be. And this one has been compared to The Ninth House and The Night Circus, which I love. Ninth House, one of my favorite books of all time, and I love the idea of The Night Circus, even though I didn't love the book itself as much. So the idea of those two books combined and written by Holly Black, oh my gosh, yes, I need that in my life right now. But yeah, in this world, the magic is based off of like shadow magic. I think there's a different term for it, but the idea is that people use the shadows in order to entertain, to change their appearances, and also to, you know, build their own influence and gain power. And our main character is named Charlie Hall. She's this like low-level con artist who basically makes ends meet by doing odd jobs for her various patrons. But then one day, a terrible figure from her past returns and thrusts her into a world of secrets and murder, setting her against a cast of doppelgangers, mercurial billionaires, shadow thieves, and her own sister, all desperate to control the magic of the shadows. Sounds fantastic. Very intrigued by the mercurial billionaire. But overall, just like very excited for this story and to just see what Holly Black is gonna do next. It's just always exciting to see like where she's gonna take us next in her worlds. Sorry for any movement that has occurred. My camera battery died, of course, but I'm at the last two books for this video. We are now getting into spring proper in May, and I'm so excited for this next one because it sounds so interesting, and it's called The Honeys by Ryan Lasala. And this is a YA horror novel that has been billed as like a dark academia version of The Heathers, which just sounds super interesting. And it's a big exploration of gender and like strict gender roles. We follow Mars, whose sister, who he used to be very close to, has died in this really horrific way. And struck by grief, he insists on attending this prestigious summer academy that his sister had really poured herself into over the past few years. But he had always been blocked from attending and also from other various functions because he is gender fluid. And so he ends up getting to go to this summer academy, and when he arrives, he finds this very picturesque countryside kind of setting, and it like feels like a big fairy tale, like the style of the academy and all of that, but all of the like folksy charm and sun-drenched festivities are basically there to camouflage these incredibly strict gender roles. And so at this academy, he ends up meeting the Honeys, who are basically this group of girls who are so named because behind their cabin is a beehive that they keep. And yeah, they're basically this like clique of girls that are, I believe, like probably creepy and weird, and he believes that they also are the ones behind his sister's murder. So that is where that book takes off. Just sounds really interesting. I know a lot of people last year read Bunny and really enjoyed it. I did not my favorite book, to be honest. However, I really liked the idea of Bunny, and I like other books that have been compared to it, so I'm hopeful that this one will be more successful for me. And then lastly, on May 10th is definitely one of my most anticipated books of the whole year. Like, this is definitely like near the top of the list for me, and that is Siren Queen by Naivo. I read and absolutely loved Nai Vo's Great Gatsby retelling that I am completely blanking on the name of right now. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. It was some of the most beautiful writing that I have read in such a long time. I loved just everything that she did with that story and how she expanded on it and just made it, I just like updated it for 2021 in a way that like made me connect to it in a way that I've never have before. I just really enjoyed that story, and I love her writing. Like, her writing is just so beautiful, some of the most beautiful writing I think out there right now. The story is inspired by one of my favorite historic figures, Anna May Wong, who was an amazing actress in old Hollywood who never really got the chance to be as like big as she could have been because she was Chinese. And so in this story we follow Luli Wei, and she is also a Chinese American actress, and the story is set in 1920s Hollywood, but it's not set in the 1920s Hollywood that we are familiar with. In this Hollywood there are monsters, and these monsters make bargains in blood and ancient magic, and they get power from tricking young starlets. Just like this like quote from the synopsis: Siren Queen offers up an enthralling exploration of an outsider achieving stardom on her own terms in a fantastical Hollywood where the monsters are real and the magic of the silver screen illuminates every page. I just cannot wait. I think it's gonna be so good, and I love Nai Vo's like her last novel, so I'm really excited to read something new from her. I definitely want to pick up other books that she's written. That's definitely a goal for me this year too, because I really loved that one so much. Was it The Beautiful and the Damned? Is that the name of it? Let me just Google that real quick. I have a computer right in front of me. The Chosen and the Beautiful. That was it. The Chosen and the Beautiful. Absolutely phenomenal. Really enjoyed that one last year. I'll probably I will be doing my best and worst books of 2021 videos. I don't know if it'll be 2 videos or 1 video, but that'll be coming in the new year. Obviously, there's still a few more days left of this year, so I want to give myself the opportunity to maybe discover some favorites. I don't know. It might happen. It could happen. I did just discover a new favorite webtoon. Let's Play. Oh my goodness. I am fully sucked in. So yeah, very excited about that. I am nowhere near my Goodreads goal. That's not happening this year, alas. I don't think I plan on making a maybe I'll make a goals for the year video, but it's definitely not going to be like last year, which was a bit of a mess. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm so excited for all these books. I ended this list in May and stuck to like my top 10, but I will probably make another one sometime in May to talk about summer books I'm excited for, so keep an eye out for that. But again, I would love to hear from you all. What are some books you're excited for? Which books out of the ones I shared with you today are you most intrigued by? Let me know. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye!